welcome to this preview of the Banker's special edition for the annual meeting of the International Monetary Fund. I'm here with Europe editor Stefanie Linhardt, who wrote the cover story which deals with one of the European Union's most contentious policies and which is also an issue in the US elections, and that's migration. Steph, it was a big issue in the run-up to the Brexit vote. Migration figured largely there. It's also a political issue across Europe. But if we stand back and look at it from purely economic terms, I mean, is migration mostly a positive in economic terms?
It's a mixed picture, really. It's hard to come up with an actual estimate, a proper estimate for it. So economists have been telling me that the best thing to look at actually is the fiscal impact of migration, which has been analysed for countries like the UK and Sweden.
All right, and they find mostly that migrants contribute more than they take out of a country.
Yes, yes, that's exactly.
But then what about in terms of contributing to growth? I mean, does a migration, mass migration, push the country forward in terms of increasing its economic growth?
Well, the Commissioner for the Single Market, Tyson, she mentioned that the EU has figures that the influx, let's call it, of workers from Central Eastern Europe after the 2004
did lead to
enlargement did lead to a 1%. Positive growth in the
Western Europe. And that raises an interesting question, doesn't it? Because we're always talking about the recipient countries. Yeah. But what about those countries that send their best and brightest workers overseas, Poland, Romania, Bulgaria? What's the impact on those countries?
The obvious impact is that, especially if the highly skilled are going, there is a brain drain. There is discussions about this. I've spoken to the Romanian finance minister a few months ago, and she was saying that especially highly skilled health workers are leaving the country. So they are actually trying to bring them back by raising wages for the health sector in the country. And she says,
but it's very difficult,
some people
are because the differential in wages between Romania and Germany, I mean, is probably sort of a factor of about 10. So you could never raise them to actually match German or French wages.
Yes, so you have to attract your people back in terms of all sorts of things, wages, but also often people do migrate because of just that the political, stability might not be quite as good.
All right, now the other thing in Germany particularly, there's been an issue around the other kind of migrants, the ones that are coming from the Middle East, which are often fleeing war. And clearly there's a humanitarian case for taking those. But what about if we compare their contribution economically and those of EU migrants? Is there a difference there?
There is certainly a difference. There's only the first little bit of research done into the migration of migrants from the Middle East. But often they don't speak the language, which is a huge barrier. And the whole integration is going to take a lot longer. So economists do expect that there is going to be a net negative for now, but maybe in future, in a few years' time, depending on how well people get integrated, that could also be moving into a positive territory.
Okay, thanks very much, Steph. So migration, that's one of the topics in our October issue, the IMF issue. A range of topics with a number of contributions from central bank governors and finance ministers across the globe. And at the actual annual meeting, which is in Washington this year, we will be doing previews and video interviews with the senior executives there.